Hello and welcome to A Gentleman Talks, our series of one-to-one interviews with ladies and gentlemen where we discuss about their work, about their lives, about their influences, all within the framework of our mission to make the world a more respectful, stylish and gentlemanly place. Today, we at The Perfect Gentleman are proud to have Ray Gelato with us. Good morning, Ray.
Morning, Zach. How are you?
I'm very well, sir. How are you?
Very, very well. Very well.
Good. So, tell us a little bit about you for those who don't know you and don't know who you are. Give us a couple of seconds about who you are and why you're such a fabulous person.
Well, that would take a book to say. But briefly, I'm a musician, saxophone player, singer, and band leader. We're probably running one of the last of the working bands in that swing jazz kind of scene, and we go on the road and tour, and that's about it.
You've been in the business a fantastically long time for one so young. And I've had the great pleasure of seeing you work and listening to your music. It's fabulous and great job keeping that kind of style of music going.
Well, the thing is, I keep it going because people like it, and it's almost a little more to listen to than maybe what's in what kids are listening to today. It's a little more interesting, but it's not so intellectual as a lot of jazz now, which I find, I'm a big jazz fan, but I find that jazz per se can be either dinner music, which is a little soulless, as it's perceived today, or a little too intellectual. So we're kind of trying to get in the middle ground, and we get a lot of, a very, very diverse audience come to see us.
Yeah, you do. What's fascinating is, do you think that the rise of people like Michael Bublé and Jamie Cullum and that kind of audience drives it younger, so you get people coming who are younger and different, and they're intrigued by that sort of music and drawn into that sort of music?
Well, yes and no in my case, because when a Bublé or a Cullum gets success, or Robbie Williams does his Sinatra thing at the Albert Hall, for a couple of years it's great because people, the general public, I would say, become aware of the music, and yes, they will probably come to see people like me. It helps with the corporate bookings, but in our case, we just build the audience up, I think, on our own back over the years through hard work and touring and doing the Ronnie Scott's residency. And I think because the trouble is with, if you're following fashion, that just goes, and then the people that will just do it for fashionable reasons will not come anymore. So we try to build a lasting fan base up,
Then you have a great one.
Yeah, it is. We're very lucky. A nice one in Italy, a little one in the US, and very, very good in London and the UK.
That's great. I'm fantastic watching you play and perform, and the way you interact with the audience as well. You tell jokes, and I really love it. I think it's really great, and your fans keep coming back. Well, you were saying that when I went to one of your concerts, you were saying the family have been there every year for the last 5 years, and they brought their family every time they come.
Absolutely. That's what happens. They'll come, then they'll bring the kids, and then the kids get a little bit older, and become in their 20s, and then they'll come, and then they'll come without the mum and dad and bring their friends. So that's very healthy to do that, because even though we're playing an older style of music in the swing and the sort of jazzier influence, it's important to get younger people into it as well.
Oh no, definitely. One of my favourite styles of music. So I'm a big fan already. I'm a convert. So I want to kind of go back to sort of paraphrase Mary Poppins. Let's go back to the very good beginning. So what was your earliest influences? What was your kind of early, when you were growing up, who were the people, who were the men and ladies that influenced you?
Well, musically or in every single way?
In every sense, really. Kind of what drove you down the path that you sort of moved along?
Well, I think really was probably my father's records, because my father is from New Jersey in the United States.
Right.
So he met my mother when he was in the Air Force stationed in the UK, and had a fantastic record collection. Sammy Davis Jr. I remember one called The Wham of Sam, with Sammy Davis with this old microphone, and I used to be fascinated just by the cover. And then I put it on and hear this fantastic music. And he'd have Dean Martin, and also a lot of rock and roll, because he's a 50s kid, that's when that was the music of his era. Fats Domino, Bill Haley and the Comets. No jazz, but what I call really good music. So he used to play that around the house, and I used to love it. I used to sing along to it and dance with my sister, and love the instrumental stuff. So that was it. And also my grandfather was a big influence as well, because he was a London taxi driver. So he knew everywhere and anywhere. And he would take me around as a little kid round to Soho. I'd walk around and look around. Obviously it was a different place in those days, but I loved it. And he used to introduce me to a lot of different things like that,
And so that influenced you down the path. But sort of, what influenced you as a guy? Was it your grandfather and your dad that influenced you as a man as well?
I would say my father used to work a lot when I was a kid. He used to have two jobs at one point. Well, he was working for Shell Oil in the accounts department, but he also had another job, believe it or not, working at the White City Dog Track, taking the money, doing some accounts thing there. He just needed two jobs, and but my grandfather was around more than my father. So I'd be in the front of the taxi. In those days, there was no health and safety, so you never needed seatbelts, you see. So I'd sit in the luggage rack, holding onto the air vent like that, and we'd drive all over London and picking up fares. That was amazing, fantastic things. And he influenced me very much because he was a very polite, very well-dressed, elegant guy. From the era, even on a hot day, he'd always have a suit and tie and the trilby hat,
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I remember my grandfather was a big influence on my life because my father left quite early, so my grandfather was a big influence on my life, and I suppose that generation, that generation still had that style and dress and
Absolutely.
Manners and etiquette that kind of
huge manners. My grandfather, he told me two things, and it sounds strange, and it stays with me to this day. Hold the door open for a lady. You'd probably be slapped now for doing that.
well,
in these times.
I think that changes,
but it stayed with me, and also never steal, because people that steal are just wrong. And so it was very, very good lessons. Just two little things he used to say all the time. He was a real gentleman, and everybody knew him, which was great. His name was Morris, so they called him Maury. So he'd be in the cab, and it was, hey, Maury. So it was lovely to be with someone that, well, not a celebrity, but everyone knew the guy in London. So it was fantastic.
Well, he was a celebrity in his world. He was the celebrity. Yeah, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah, and Dad was great too. Dad with the music a little bit more. He's always been a fun guy. We had a lot of fun, but I guess I spent more time with my grandfather. I don't remember what music he liked though. I guess it was Al Jolson and people from that era. I don't know.
Even further back.
Probably a lot further back. Yeah.
And what was your first sort of musical influence? When did you start going, I want to be a musician?
It's funny because I guess I started to become aware of music in the 60s. My mum and dad used to take me to see these package shows. They used to have these big package shows in the theatre on Shepherd's Bush. Now, I can't remember what it's called. It used to be the BBC Centre on Shepherd's Bush Green. Big theatre. And they used to have Jerry and the Pacemakers. I was a tiny kid. I was only 3 or 4 years old. The Swinging Blue Jeans, Gene Vincent, these 60s rockers. So I guess all that stayed with me at the time. So that was probably my earliest influence of seeing people live. And then my dad took me to see Bill Haley and the Comets. Do you remember him? Rock Around the Clock, Mr. Rock Around the Clock. This guy came out with a kiss curl and a tuxedo, dressed immaculate, patent shoes, shiny shoes, and sounded and looked virtually the same. This must have been 20 odd years later. And had a good band too, so that influenced me to, I just looked at that and thought, I'd like some of that. It was interesting. People loved it and was stamping their feet and clapping. I thought, it would suit me actually.
So when was your first gig? When did your first live performance?
Well, I bought a saxophone on the back of what I loved from my father's records and the people I'd seen, and some clubs I was going to when I was a kid used to have a lot of live bands, a lot of blues bands and New Orleans bands. When I say New Orleans, not Dixieland, but that real funky bluesy stuff. A lot of things going on in the early 80s, late 70s, which was a fantastic place to cut your teeth. And the first band I was ever in, I just sat in with this bunch of guys playing kind of, I guess, 50s rock and roll, and I managed to play. So they said, come, let's rehearse. And it grew from there, really. And I used to just ask to sit in with anybody. I'd go up to this wonderful New Orleans piano player called Diz Watson and say, do you mind if I play? He'd go, okay, well, come up, do a number. I'd mess it up a little bit. He'd say, let me come back the next week. And every week I came back, I got a little bit better and played with a couple of, the band were professional musicians, so they were far in advance of what I could do. And I learned that way, by just listening and hearing and then practicing and asking a lot of questions,
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really good.
No music college at all. I'm glad, because even though I have some holes in what I call my musical knowledge and education, it gave me a way of communicating with an audience to learn how to play live. I learned on the live circuit,
So you just learned, there's no education, just
Well, I know I took formal lessons with that. I studied with a guy for 3 years, to learn how the saxophone really worked and how music worked, because I just used to play along with my father's records, so I must have had a quick ear to learn how to play. And then I also studied at the City Lit, in fact not too far from here at Covent Garden, night school, to learn about theory of music and things like that. But I don't have a very deep knowledge of theory like someone who went to music college would have.
Okay. And yeah, I think doesn't that you said you gives you an advantage.
It gives me an advantage playing live and becoming the personality that I developed on stage. Very much so. It gives me a little bit of a disadvantage when I've got to write arrangements out because I'm so slow. I farm it out to somebody else. But we can't do everything. Nobody can do every single thing. You have to work to your strengths.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a big believer in that. I totally agree in that. An image. I have a long conversation with you about image because when did you decide that this was your image, this was your brand, this was what you were going to do? Because I've known you for a few years, and you're always a stylish guy. You're exceptionally stylish when you're on stage, but you're even a stylish guy when you're sitting around with your friends. I mean, why did you sort of hone down on this image, and what was kind of like your thought process for that?
Well, a lot of the guys I used to hang out with when I was in my teens used to wear suits. They used to like that 50s scene, so. You had two schools, the scruffier ones with the jeans, and then people used to wear nice, what I call those D-mob kind of suits that were quite popular during the late 70s, early 80s, like that. And David Bowie used to wear that sort of image, so we went through that with the peg pants and that. But the image I got now, I developed, by looking at, I used to like the way people like Sinatra dressed and those sort of people, from that era. They were very, very, always immaculate looking. And a lot of my heroes, like people like Lionel Hampton, the band leader, I used to see them come on the stage and wear, really immaculate attire. And I decided to sort of get some of that for myself,
Okay, and so I have to ask: do you get your suits tailored? Do you go? Where do you get all your outfits? Do you spend hours hunting?
Hours and hours. I used to try off the peg second-hand shops when I was a kid, when I was younger, and I didn't like that at all. So I started to get them made. My first tailor was in Harrow, and the guy passed away, a guy called Jack Geach. My second tailor was a guy called Chris Rocco, who used to outfit Blue Rondo a la Turk. Do you remember that 70s or 80s band? Yeah. And I use a succession of different guys now, but I always decided I wanted to get all the suits handmade because I could design them myself. I can make sure they're how I want them, and I just don't wear off the peg. I can't wear off the peg suits.
Excuse the helicopter. It's probably Alan Sugar returning from his firing another apprentice.
Or Charles Saatchi escaping. I shouldn't have said that.
That's fine. Because one of the things that we talk about and is important to me is, style is very important. Style is timeless. It's one of those things of fashion changes and style is timeless.
Yes.
And investing in a suit. I mean, you obviously invested in your suits at an early age.
Yeah.
I mean, do you view it as, because having a tailored suit is not a cheap item, but, what's your view on tailoring and going off the peg and...
Well, it's a nice business expense you can write off and put them against the table. But no, seriously, I, in my opinion, I just think it looks better, fits better, it looks better. For me, being on stage, I need that, And I've gone through a variety of styles. I used to wear double-breasted, which were the bigger kind of more, not zoot suits, but in that drape, more less fitted. And now I go for a couple of different styles, but I like the single-breasted. Turn back cuff. See, that's what I like about bespoke tailoring. You can say, look, do this, turn back the cuff, put a cloth button on. Well, you're going to get that off the peg. I'd be honest. To get a good off the peg suit, you're almost spending as much money. So, getting them. And I like the whole thing about going to the tailor,
You like the experience?
I love the experience, yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. And I found some great tailors that I hardly... No, they're not Savile Row, but they do some fantastic quality,
I think that's very true. Everyone thinks of tailoring, they immediately think Savile Row.
Yeah.
And the high-end bespoke suit. But there's some great tailors dotted around here in London, but all over the world that do great work. And they're not that, they have that quality. It's a handmade suit.
Yeah.
But they're not, don't have the Savile Row price infrastructure to worry about.
No, that's right. And what I do is I get the guys, because my guys on the stage, I like them to look smart as well. So I get their jackets bespoke. I don't get the whole suits anymore because we have subs coming in and out and it's a complete nightmare. But I'll get the jackets bespoke at somewhere, but I'll get my suits made somewhere else. just a price thing. But their jackets, it's great because you can't buy those kind of jackets off the peg, or that kind of look that we need, you know, to look smart on the stage, you know.
And you and I share a love of pocket squares. But where did you get all your stuff from? Where do you hunt around? Where do you go?
I always buy my ties in the States. I rarely buy my ties. I used to wear the vintage ties, some of those, and they're really nice, but I found it quite hard to match with suits. But when I go out to the States, I found some fantastic outfits, very, very old-fashioned outfits in Philadelphia. And they'll make really nice shirts. I haven't got one on today, but with the proper collars and the French cuff, the double cuff. And they do some fantastic ties, and some ties with matching pocket chiefs and things like that.
Yeah, because America's very into their match, the tie and the pocket square has to match.
I don't always do that, but it's quite a nice look for stage.
Yes.
You know, but I will generally buy all my stuff out there when I go, and buy like 20 ties so it will last me a year, and then buy another 20 when I go back again.
And what's a down day for Ray? What's a not stage suit day? What's a
down day is smoking cigars. I'll have a relaxing day. I always enjoy a lovely cigar, a lovely Havana, and generally cooking. Enjoy cooking for my family or friends.
Cooking,
that's a big passion of mine.
What's your signature dish?
I reckon New Orleans jambalaya. Nothing gourmet, just something beautiful put in the pot, and with the right smoked sausage and the proper rice and the stock. Yeah, I'll do a lot of things. You know, I do curries, and I can cook a lot of Italian stuff. Little arancini fried rice balls. Hell of a palaver to make, you know, but it's very satisfying, and it's an antidote for the craziness of the musician's business and the travelling, you know. But I find the cigars are the relaxing thing for me. They really bring me down, you know.
But it's interesting because Nick and I were talking about cooking the other day, and we were saying that, you know, it's a great art for a gentleman to have. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, it is relaxing, it is fun, it is easy to do, and, you know, it's not particularly difficult. Everyone thinks cooking is very difficult. It's just like everything, it's preparation and practice.
It is practice, but it's also, I think, a little bit of a flair, a little bit. Anybody can do. But when people say they can't cook, that's rubbish. You can, you know, you just got to look. But most people say they can't cook, don't look at the dish enough. They don't check it enough, and it burns. They all say, well, I'll burn. There's no excuse to burn anything. Just check it out, right? Look at it, and make sure it's doing. You know.
I'm coming to your house for jambalaya because it's one of my favourites.
Anytime.
So what's your favourite accessory? Because I see you always have tie pins as one of your...
Yeah, I do love tie pins, and I used to wear the tie studs sometimes as well. I used to have some beautiful tie studs that went into the tie that would clip back there like that. But the trouble is, if I want to take the tie off towards the end of the gig, which I do, for two reasons. One, I get hot on it, and it looks quite good if you take the tie off, you know, that you can't do that. You've got to fiddle around. So, I love tie pins. Cufflinks, although I don't have any on today, but I do love cufflinks, new and vintage. And shoes as well.
Shoes?
Yeah, shoes. I buy a lot of shoes in the States as well, because you can find some very unusual shoes, you know. Not too over the top, but really nice. The two-tone, a little bit of snakeskin here, and they look very nice on stage as well, very unusual.
It's interesting, you talk about buying shoes in America. I tend to buy shoes in America because I have rather large feet, and generally shoes stop at a certain size here, size 11, and then, you know, I have to go to America to get anything reasonably decent beyond a certain size, and it is quite a challenge. But yeah, I love buying shoes as well.
Yeah, I like English. I mean, I got these are Lokes today. I like the classic English shoes as well, and they always last so well. So I'd say cufflinks, tie pin, and shoes.
Cufflinks, tie pins, and shoes. I like it. I definitely. My thing is pocket squares. I'm a pocket square addict. Like if I see a pocket square, I'm generally going, oh, I must buy that.
Yeah.
So we talked a bit about your music influences. What's your kind of music influences now? What do you kind of look at now and go, they're really good, they're great, you know?
I listen to a lot of old stuff still, because good music is not old, it's timeless. My wife's a big classical fan, so I listen to some classical stuff with her. But I still love vocalists. I still love people like, I love Louis Prima for his fun. The guy who did the King Louis Jungle Book, but he did some fantastic jazz, the great stuff. Louis Armstrong, Sinatra. I listen to a lot of the classic sax players like Lester Young, Ben Webster. I love big bands. But I also love blues music and R&B music, old R&B, not what they call R&B now. But people now, I think Jamie Cullum, who you mentioned before, does a great job. Bublé I like. It's not someone I'd listen to at home, But I would go see it. I'd like to see the concert. There's a new girl called Caro Emerald who's out, who I think is very good. She's doing something very interesting. Very retro take, but kind of like tangos and things like that. And she's had a #1 album, so somehow people seem to like the music. You know, it's good.
I think. Do you think that the music industry now, because it's changed, because the industry's changed, and we'll talk a little bit about how the music industry's changed for you, but the music industry's changed, people can find niches easier, they can investigate, you know, they can, if they like country, they can buy country, if they like jazz, they can buy jazz, and they, you know, and an album like Color Emerald can drive forward and get to #1 easier than previously, because
no, I not personally. No, I think previously people would tend to be into a more diverse music scene. I think it's become so homogenized now, especially with younger people that we said earlier, who are listening to maybe 4 artists. What you got? One Direction, Rihanna, Katy Perry. Blah, blah, blah. There's so many people, so that saddens me a little bit. Not that there's not room for these people. There are, but God, there's so much out there. So, but I think with the internet, I don't think it's quite done what I would have hoped it would have done in getting people into more diverse music. What you say is right. It's probably easier to do that, but I'm not sure how many people actually do it. You know. Yeah,
I mean, I know that you spend a lot of time online talking to your fans and engaging with them in the digital sphere. How, you know, how easy was that for you to transition to? Because I mean, you started in the traditional music industry, and now it's so not the traditional music industry. You know, how does that transition work for you? Because I mean, I know you're very good at it, and you're very good at doing it.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I am, but if you say that, that's nice. Well, I found the transition quite difficult. For example, we used to have mailing lists. You'd have a book at the foyer of the gig, and people would put their mailing list down. First, it was postal addresses. Years ago, then it was email, and what a pain that was to log all that afterwards. Now with Facebook and Twitter and what have you, it is a lot easier, and it's great. You can post a gig up. If you sell 5 more tickets, if something's not selling well, it's a bonus, which you can do on these things. However, I do find there's so many, everyone's on these sites now, and sometimes I tend to feel that you can be a little bit, one can be just a number on there. So it's not, what you post is not taking so much notice of. But I don't know. I think there's good and bad with it, really. You know. But I'm quite happy it's in, because it saves me mailing hundreds of people out all the time.
But has it also changed your audience as well? Do you think? I mean, you know, you were sort of at the beck and call of the record industry, the record label beforehand. It was where they wanted you to go, where they wanted you to promote, and now you can go. Well, actually, I want to go here, or I've heard about. You know, you tour around the world all the time. You know, I can go here, or I've heard that these guys, you know, do stuff in Spain. I can go speak to them.
Yes, I think it's made it. It's certainly given the artist more independence. Again, having said that, the scene is smaller. The roots scene is smaller than perhaps when I started out. There was a lot more live venues, so you've got a paradox really in it, because I think you had more work then for live musicians. Maybe less massive control of the big corporations and record companies, but now I think yes, it is certainly helpful. But like I say, there's plus and minuses to it. You know, we've all got to use it, and I kind of enjoy using it. A great thing about Facebook is, or Twitter, if I'm doing a new album, which I did for my Italian album, I did one completely in Italian. I put a post up and said, "What songs would you like to hear? I'm doing an album in a year or whenever it is. Please." I want your ideas. I've got hundreds and hundreds of people telling me asking what songs that I should do. I checked them out, and some of them were great, and I put them on the album. So that is the real thing about it. You can reach so many people.
And interact with them in that way.
Interact with them, and they love to be part of it too.
Yeah, they say, I was influential on getting that track on the album.
I've done that I'm doing a New Orleans blues recording when I can afford to put it out. And I've done the same thing, and people sent YouTube clips, all sorts of stuff. Try this one, try that one. Some of them I don't like, other ones are great. Things I would never have thought of. So they're interacting with the fans.
That's really cool.
It's amazing, yeah.
That's really cool.
Amazing.
You mentioned a couple of times, and of course your surname, your Italian heritage. How has that influenced you and your music and your life and what you do?
I don't think at all, because I grew up as a Londoner, you know, and I only learnt about Italian songs. I'm not talking about Sinatra or Dean Martin or Louis Prima, American, but real Italians, when I started travelling there in the 80s. And again, the fans used to bring tapes. Oh, try this. Do you like this song and that? So I guess it was the cooking, maybe a little bit more, and my temperament.
And your temperament.
But as far as who I am, no, not really.
No?
Not at all, no.
I'm going to pick you up on the Londoner, because you and I are both Londoners, and it's a very rare breed to both live and be from London. What is London as a city for you?
It's somewhere I always miss when I'm away. I've lived in 2 separate countries. I've lived in Florida for a year and Barcelona for a year. Both with my wife, we decided to get out, and I utilised the American passport, so I got dual citizenship because I'm a dad, and I thought, I've got to use it. So I went out to Florida. 6 months, it was heaven. After 6 months, I thought, I miss London too much. Miss hanging in Soho or the West End with my friends, and there's always something happening in this city. And I'm still discovering streets and labyrinths and places that I didn't even know existed. So it's just a fantastic city. It's a city of wonderful culture, great music, great people, and I love it. I'd miss it if I left.
I think I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think it's
and
one
you
of
can
those.
get what you want.
Yeah, I think everything's here.
Yeah.
Everything's here. You can find everything.
Yeah, nothing really works sometimes. It gets that can get me down a bit, but there again,
And the weather.
Sometimes the weather. But if you live in another country, you do realise that nowhere's a utopia. You've got a different set of issues somewhere else. Yeah.
You travel a lot.
Yeah.
What's the pluses and minuses of travelling? I mean, we, the Perfect Gentleman, always talk. The travelling gentleman has to do certain things. For you, what's kind of your Ray's quick guide to travelling?
Quick guide to travelling is try to travel as light as you can. Check in online. Get a seat in the front of near the front of the plane as you can. Then you don't have to walk past all the people and get your stuff. Avoid airports as much as you can. If you ask about the minuses, that's the minus now, the flying. I find it hard. I don't like the way that we're talking about gentlemen, and I don't like the way that one isn't treated as a gentleman. I'm not talking about just me, anybody. I feel we are treated quite badly by the airline industries generally, and I think that's wrong. I don't like that at all, where you're just shoved from pillar to post, not shown any respect. And that's the side of the industry I find very hard now, the flying. And it's got worse. It's got a lot worse. The pluses, of course, are the playing to different fans, diverse fans who are fantastic people, and eating wonderful food in different countries. That's what I like to do, and especially Italy, because that's the best cuisine in the world.
Not biased at all.
Every region you go, it's a different thing altogether. But I put up with the travelling. There's no ideal situation. You have to put up with it. But I find that's got quite hard.
Yeah, I mean, gone are the days of the glamorous travelling. I remember my grandfather and my grandmother talking about the days of glamorous travelling.
Yeah, that's right. And if I do anything now over 3 or 4 hours, then I'm booking premium economy, no matter what it costs me. I don't care, because you do get that slight little bit of nicer treatment, and you feel a little bit better. It makes a big difference.
It does make a big difference. At the end of the day, it makes
a big difference.
So what's your favourite place in the world?
That's a hard one, because I've got so many. I'd say New York City, here of course, and Rome.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say if I had to say one favourite place, New York.
Why New York?
You know what? It's London plus more to me. It's London plus more. I find the atmosphere there a little more positive. I like Americans for their positivity generally, and I find New York, even though it's brash and whatever, it's a can-do city. And sometimes you find with London, it's a little bit of a maybe or can't-do city, which it's probably wrong of me to say, but I do think New York is a little more positive, and I like that. I like the energy there. When you play there, you get some kind of energy. I can't describe what it is, and I'm sure you know what I mean.
No, I do know what you mean. I love New York.
And people speak to you; they're very nice. You go to go somewhere more than once or twice, and people they seem to be very. I find them courteous, very courteous. New York.
It's that old school manners thing, isn't it?
Old school manners. And I found that living in the States as well, living in Florida, there was an old school manners that unfortunately the UK seemed to have, it's dropped a little bit here.
How do you think we can bring it back?
By people like us. No matter
Well,
what culture you are or what class of background you're from, it's how you carry yourself and how you treat people. I think that's important. So as I go back to the airline industry again, I put my boot into them. But they really need to get a customer service again that makes people, because if we're treated well, then you treat the staff well, and the world is a better place. It goes round, you know.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's certain airlines, we won't name them, do tend to treat people like cattle and it's, get them in, get them out, and it's just basically, you know, and I suppose there is a place for that kind of travel, but you know, at the end of the day, I think I agree with you. You're going, not, you know, most business travel or pleasure travel is either there because you have to in the business sense and you want it to be comfortable enough, or it's pleasurable, in which case it's part of your holiday or part of your journey, in which case, you know, you want to feel good, and the dreading of getting on the plane because it's a cattle mission is awful.
It is. In fact, I've got in my contract now, we can't mention airlines, but there's certain airlines I said to the promoters, don't even run them past me because I'm not going to use them. I'm not going to go on an airline with a stag and hen party when we're trying to go on our own business, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just not doing it, you know. So
what's the one thing you wouldn't travel without?
Well, my saxophone, of course. I needed to play. Let me have a think. You know what? Honestly, my Mac computer, because what keeps me sane is to watch DVDs when I'm away.
Okay, that leads me nicely onto what are you watching at the moment? What's your TV or film choices?
My film choices are, I've just finished, well, I'm just through Game of Thrones, which I find is very, my mother got me into that actually. I'm not keen on these kind of things, Game of Thrones, but when I started watching it, I thought it's very, very good. I love Mad Men. Absolutely love it. I'm rewatching Series 5 again, and I absolutely love it. And Breaking Bad, I think, is one of the best things ever made. It's incredible. It's just incredible. But Mad Men, I love it, and I think they've got that period so well down.
They have, haven't they? The start, let alone the intrigue, the style is just beautiful.
And I love the intrigue as well. And the funny thing is, this series is not that successful in relation to other series. I read that the viewing figures are not amazing, and I find that hard to believe. It's fantastic. Yeah.
Maybe people are getting a bit fed up with the style, but there we go. You know. I'm never fed up with the style.
No.
You've been married a reasonably long time, so
yeah.
What's the success to a long-term relationship?
Give her money. No, you know what? We were talking about this the other day. Be best friends. It's very, very simple. If you can somehow be best, we met as best friends, and we've remained best friends through ups and downs of whatever happens in people's lives. And I think that's the key. It really is the key. Be best friends, have a lot in common. We don't get out much now because of the two children. You'll have two very young children, a little girl of 5 and a boy of 8. But we went out the other day we went to Notting Hill. We didn't go to a multiplex. We decided to go to a lovely old cinema, the Gates, which has got the old ornamentation. I'd rather watch a movie on a small screen than go to
you and me both.
And my wife Rebecca loves that too. So we sat there and watched Behind the Candelabra with Michael Douglas, had a Spanish meal, and had the best time we could have, because we've remained best friends after 17 years of being together.
That's great. That's fabulous. And I think that's very true. I think it is, you know, relationships, whether that's you know, romance specifically, as we're talking about here, or just friends. It is about having the common ground and having that best friends relationship. I mean, you know, we met through our shared passion of cigars, but you know, we've remained friends and stuff like that. And you have that group of people that you always speak to and always deal with and deal with in a certain way. But and especially in a romantic relationship, it's about nurturing that friendship.
I think so, because you can be, saying we're best friends doesn't mean we're not romantic, and also you have to work on these things as well. You know, it's a natural tendency when you're with someone a long time not to be so romantic, but do a little thing like sending flowers or a surprise or whatever. Then I think it keeps everything going. You know.
So that the Italian romantic in you.
Italian romantic. Yeah.
So what are you reading at the moment?
In fact, I'm reading Behind the Candelabra because I saw the movie and I've got the. I thought I'd buy the book because I'm very interested in people's lives, you know, and especially people in the entertainment business, how they dealt with things or whatever. And I find that story of Liberace quite fascinating, you know, especially the way he was so terrified that the fact he was gay was going to come out, which now nobody would care less. And it's quite a tragic story in a way.
Do you think that nobody would care less? Because there's still a lot of stigma to coming out.
I just think today they wouldn't. Not with the fear that he had, because this guy cut his teeth, I guess, in the 40s and 50s. And then I think it was, you know, much more of a stigma. I mean, maybe some people would now, but I think at a general level, no. You know, I don't think so. Not so much. And then what was the last one I read before that was? I've got a pile of books on my bed, and you've got me on this one. But it was Danny Baker's autobiography. Absolutely loved it. Completely going on about London and East London and whatever. It was a marvelous book.
Yeah, Danny Baker's another good Londoner.
Yeah.
Another rare Londoner.
Great Londoner, yeah.
A great Londoner. Very interesting. I must pick that up.
Yeah, it's well worth it. Well worth the read.
And what's a book that's influenced you?
Probably, in all honesty, the biographies or autobiographies of people that I like because or admire, because you can see their sort of struggles, especially in my industry. I've read books on Sinatra, on Mel, great, very, very good autobiography of Sammy Davis Jr. that talks about his struggles with race, of being in the army and being accepted and whatever. And that was, they influenced me quite a lot. These sort of books,
Did you have a hero growing up, apart from your grandfather?
Let me think. Not really. Probably the kind of heroes that we had as kids in the 70s. I'd say Muhammad Ali was pretty much of a hero to all of us when we were in the 70s, because he was a real, he was a hero to us all, We'd always sit there hoping he'd win the fights, against Fraser. And
what made him a hero to you?
I think his natural talent and the way he put himself across. And he stood up for what he believed in, right or wrongly, he stood up for what he believed in, which I think was very, very important.
Yeah, it is very important. I think people don't do that as often as they should do nowadays.
Absolutely not, and that's why I think we probably didn't know why then, but that's why we admired him, And he was funny. He didn't take himself too seriously, which was great. It was a personality in that world, which was great.
Yeah, now with everything being about personality, do you think that's gone the other way, and now it's kind of like everyone's there to wants the witty one-liner or the standout thing? Do you think that there's you're a very stylish gentleman, and it's kind of, and you're very consistent with your brand and the way you come across, and I don't see you sort of making a cheap jibes or you and that to.
I'm good for a cheap jibe sometimes. No, not really. I'm trying to be myself, and I think you've got so many people, especially in the media, that seem to have a veneer on there, which could be a little bit annoying. And I don't find their jibes particularly funny. That's probably just me. But whereas I think someone like Ali, he was just a crazy sort of guy for his time, and a great fighter too. He could, in other words, he could back up the humour with his talent and his gift, his skill, and I find that some people can't do that, and then it becomes a little bit flat.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's interesting, isn't it, that we sort of now there's that superficiality that we sort of expect from people, all that's driven by the media, but realistically, it should be backed up by something. Yeah. We admire those that back it up.
But the trouble is, what you're saying in times now with the celebrity culture or whatever, and magazines that are celebrating a lot of these people out there. So many of them haven't done anything at all. So I find that quite weird. Why they're celebrities? It's bizarre. Can't understand that one. And yet we've all bought it. Well, we haven't, but a lot of people buy into this kind of thing, And they behave coarsely sometimes as well, which I find a little bit weird.
It's very true. It's not the way you wish your idols and your heroes to behave. Really. You wouldn't expect that. Well, you certainly wouldn't expect to be seen doing that. No. I mean, they may have done it, but you didn't.
Although Sinatra was a hooligan in his, he was an exception, wasn't he?
He was.
He used to beat cameramen up and things. So I guess he used to dress like a gentleman, but probably underneath, a side of him wasn't. I guess a side of him was, but a side of him wasn't.
Do you think that we are that paradoxical, that dichotomy that we do live in that world where there's a side of us which is the external side and which is different to the internal side, or do you think that and it's a strive to marry those two up, or do you think?
I think we've all got that up to a point, but we've always, in anything, any art or craft or business or whatever, to be a better person, a better human being, to work at that as well. I think so. And the older I get, I more realise that,
So what inspires you?
Music still inspires me. Good people, nice people that I have a lot in common with inspire me a lot. And people that work hard at something and become good at it. I think that's really important. So I try to teach my kids as well. There's no easy way. there's no easy way of X Factor and getting there, and you know, because you won't be happy if you do that. You know, you'll be happy if you. I think you put the work in, and you know, develop a craft somehow.
Yeah, weirdly, I was talking about that with someone just a bit earlier, and we were saying that it's that people have sort of sold the overnight success, or the, you know, he left this job and earned £1 million, or he hit, you know, he walked on stage and became, you know, won a talent show.
Yes,
and that for me, that kind of it feels so wrong, because, you know, it is about the hard graft. It is about the 80 hours a week. Yeah. You might eventually get to not working 80 hours a week, but it's having that 80 hours a week hard graft as your baseline. And people, you know, as we were talking about earlier, that celebrity and that culture of today is like, oh no, have it easy, we want it easy.
But the trouble is, it doesn't last. That's the problem. And if you look at, you know, we don't want to get too much into X Factor and these things, but if you look at the people that have won these talent contests, they're very unfortunate, because only a tiny proportion have lasted. In a year, they're doing panto. In another year, they're maybe appearing on a terrible reality show, and they don't have most of these people, even if they look they're huge at the time, don't have a long career. You can only develop a long career, I think, by developing a fan base that's going to remain loyal to you, which is not easy. It's easier said than done today, you know.
But you want that consistency. I mean, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours who's a musician, we were talking the other day, and we were saying that, you know, you need only a few thousand very loyal fans who will support you, who will buy your records, who will come to your concerts, who will sort of engage with you, and then you have a career, and then you have a survival point.
You've got to build that, though. You see, that's what you have to build, and a lot of these poor kids don't know that. They're not capable of doing that because they're young. I think they should have, before people go on X Factor, they should have a government health warning, in the way of having a picture of Whitney Houston, of Michael Jackson, of Amy Winehouse up there, and say, just be careful what you really want, because look at these, they were so successful, and it's not something that the human condition can really deal with, I don't think. There's a huge level of that. So people who want it don't often, when they get it, they're not happy either.
Oh, there's loads of examples of that, isn't there? I mean, really? Loads of examples of that sort of not being able to deal with the fame, the celebrity, the things that come along with it. I mean,
that's right. And I think a lot of that is when you relinquish control of your own business. You have to have look at someone like Jagger. He controls every aspect of it and micromanages it, and he's still here, still doing tours. Whereas I believe, I don't know if I might not be right, but a Whitney Houston, whatever, they're surrounded by so many yes men. Yes, that's okay. You can spend this money, Michael Jackson, whatever. The guy ends up broke, and I think maybe if these people somehow had learned to control their own, or had a little bit more control of their own business, might not happen.
Or had someone there going,
someone
a best friend to sit there and go,
a best friend
to sit there and go, no, don't do that.
You wonder what's going on, don't you? Why no one ever said things like that? And I think that was real tragedy of my business, you know.
I think it's very true. I think it's an interesting factor that doesn't happen. You know, you get these people and they you know, have issues, and they'll become, and of course with today's world it's very public. You don't get to hide your issues and problems.
Well, that's right.
You know, and then it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It spirals out. But I think it's very interesting, because I'm a big exponent of brand, and you as a brand, and you living your brand values, and being your brand, and controlling your brand. And whether that's you as a person, and you and I are both in that world where you and I control our own image quite tightly, in the sense of, you know, it's not something we're not, but it's still, we're in control of it. We don't want to be, you know, it is in our very nature. You're not going to see us stumble out of a nightclub at 3 o'clock in the morning and misbehave, but that's because who we are, as well as our brand control. And I think that's kind of that level of culture where we kind of go, oh, we can put it on Facebook and it's not going to worry.
Yeah, this is the whole thing. You see, and I think that you know, this is the perfect gentleman thing we're talking about. And I think a few more self-aware moments with people would be quite a good thing. But they need to be taught that by their parents, or at school, or somewhere else, and a little bit more act with a little bit more dignity. That's all.
I mean, you've got kids, and obviously you teach them as parents.
Try,
But do you find that the school system and the education system doesn't, and the world outside doesn't? You battle that as a parent?
I think that, in my opinion, I think, maybe I'm incorrect, but I think that parents now have it harder in a way, because I don't think that quite the morals and the discipline are being taught in schools the way they should. It needs to be a little bit firmer, that's all. A little bit firmer. I think a little bit firmer, and I think the schools aren't as firm as they should be. Well, certainly not the majority of schools. It's a little bit more wishy-washy, and I think, I'm not saying bring back the lash or anything like that any means, but you need boundaries. Kids need boundaries. So we're constantly trying to enforce the boundaries on the children, because maybe they're not getting it so much at school,
I mean, there was because Perfect Gentleman hat on, you kind of go, there's it was just fascinating that it made the news that a school was teaching etiquette and manners. And you kind of go, why isn't it a regular part of everyday life?
Wasn't it? Yeah, exactly.
At school.
Perhaps parents don't teach that as well, you see, but the school should, if the parents aren't doing it, the school needs to do it. And I think that would be manners and awareness class. What's wrong with that?
A minister for manners, perhaps.
What's wrong with that? Have a class, an hour a week or something, and it sticks with children. It sticks with children. I mean, I even look at my kids in school uniform, and sometimes my little boy's got the toothpaste, but I'll always get the cloth or the wipe. Come on, go to school looking smart. Go to school looking like a scruff, and hopefully it will stick in a little bit.
Well, it probably will. He's that age that it will stick in, and we'll have the Mr. Mini Gelato in 20 years' time, looking as dapper as you do, sir, and playing us a saxophone and ruling the world.
Well, he's doing well on piano, which makes me very happy. Both of them are doing very well. They're quite musical little children.
They've got your musical gene, have they?
Maybe better. I think it's important getting away from computer games and internet things, because they're very addictive, these things. And get them to play, if you can, a musical instrument. It's fantastic, wonderful to encourage children with music. I think it's a great alternative to what's going on now.
So what's next for Ray?
Next is a big tour I'm away July and August. I'm going to Manhattan, Lincoln Center, with a 17-piece orchestra, which is a real thrill for me.
That's amazing.
And then we go to Chicago, then a date in Philadelphia. So we got 4 dates out there, which is nice, including the New York. Then Spain, 5 days at the Vitoria Jazz Festival in the same place, which for me is heaven, so I haven't got to travel. And I can eat tapas all day and smoke a few cigars and have some Spanish sherry. Then August, I think I was telling you earlier, we're doing a Lugano Jazz and Blues Festival. Serbia, Bulgaria, 4 days in Italy, doing a wonderful festival, Senegalia, which is a huge 50s retro festival by the beach, where people come from all over the world to be part of it. So I can't wait for that. It's going to be marvellous.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we've got a very busy, very, very good summer. Nothing really in England, in London in the summer, but it's all away. All away.
And a new album, you were saying, New Orleans album. When are we going to see that?
The New Orleans album will be ready next year. I'd like to get some guests on that. I've already got Lou Marini, the guy in the Blues Brothers, Lou Marini, the sax player, lined up to do a couple of tracks.
Oh, amazing.
And possibly join us on the tour next year. He's one of the busiest New York session guys, and he's a very sweet man. And so the New Orleans album, I'm trying to write more songs. I'd like to try to make it 50 originals and half the covers that people know a little bit more. I've already written 2 for it, so I'm kind of getting there.
You're writing again.
Yeah, I wrote one called Get Off the Phone, which is telling people to just pack up the mobiles for a little while. And that went down very, very well when we did it at Ronnie Scott's. Everyone sort of related to it.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Mobile phone etiquette. It drives me nuts. I've had a phone for a long period of time.
Yeah.
And I've got to the point now where I forget. I actually put it away now, and I don't. I'll get around to answering your call. Yeah. Back the old days when you had a line phone.
You're so right, and that is so hard to do, isn't it? Because we almost become addicted to want to check it all the time, and leave the bloody thing for a while, and the world's not going to stop, is it?
No, the world's not going to stop, and I think everyone forgets that. You go away on holiday for 2 weeks and come back and the world's just the same.
Yeah, tell me about it now. Holidays, you want to check the emails, and don't do it.
Put it away. Lock the phone in the safe. I'm not.
The song's about that actually, and it's about people doing it on walking, and you're bumping into them, and it's about people doing it in restaurants and in theatre, and it's got. We premiered it at Ronnie's, and every night people absolutely loved it. it. So I thought, yeah, I've got to win it here.
You got to win it. I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
That'll be your number one hit.
Get off the phone. Yeah.
Get off the phone.
Simply get off the phone.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
So we're going to end the Gentleman Talks, as we always do, with our 10 gentlemanly questions based on the Bernard Pivot set. So, Ray, what embodies a gentleman for you?
Manners. Manners and awareness of other people.
What is the most romantic thing you've ever done?
Danced under the Eiffel Tower with my wife.
Oh, I love that. If you could bring one gentlemanly trait into business, what would it be?
Getting back to emails and calls.
What element of grooming is most important for you?
Haircut.
Name an iconic gentleman.
My grandfather.
What's the most important item in your wardrobe?
My suits.
Why should there be more gentlemen in the world?
Well, I think for the reasons I said at the beginning of the interview, that the world would go round and be a much nicer place. We should treat each other with a lot more respect.
What key skill should every young gentleman be taught?
How to dress properly.
What should a gentleman never be without?
His cigar.
And finally, finish this sentence. A gentleman should always.
Be a decent human being.
Excellent. Ray Gelato, thank you so much
Thanks,
for your time. It has been a great pleasure.
Thank you. And pleasure's mine. Thank you.